Welcome, everybody. My name is Max Mackin, and today we're going to be reading Plato's Apology, the David Horan translation. So I'm just going to share this now with you. Okay, this is interesting. It doesn't seem to be coming up on my... Let me just pull this up again. A moment. Yeah, there we go. So, let us read together. How you, men of Athens, have been affected by my accusers, I do not know. As for me, they spoke so persuasively that they almost made me forget myself, and yet they have hardly spoken a word of truth. But for the many lies they have told, there was one that amazed me more than any, when they said that you must be on your guard lest you be deceived by me because I am a formidable speaker. The fact that they were not ashamed of being immediately refuted by me, once I actually show myself to be no formidable speaker at all. This I thought utterly disgraceful of them, unless they are calling the person who speaks the truth a formidable speaker. For if that is what they mean, I would accept that I am an orator, but not after their fashion. These men, as I say, have said little or nothing that is true, but from me you shall hear the complete truth. Without ornate speeches, beautifully adorned in every word and phrase, like the ones you heard from my accusers. No men, no men of Athens, by Zeus, you shall hear me say whatever occurs to me to say in a random manner, and none of you should expect anything else, since I am convinced of the justice of what I am saying. For it certainly would not be appropriate, at my age, to appear before you, men of Athens, with contrived arguments, like some juvenile orator. What is more, men of Athens, I ask this of you. Indeed, I implore you, neither to be surprised nor to cause a commotion if you hear me defending myself using the same arguments I am also accustomed to using at the tables in the Agora, where so many of you have heard me, and elsewhere too. For the fact of the matter is that I am appearing before the court now for the first time, at 70 years of age. So the language of the place is simply foreign to me. Now, if in fact I happened to be a foreigner, you would surely have forgiven me if I spoke in my own dialect and in the way I have been brought up to speak. And so I am now making a request of you, a just request, in my view, that for better or worse, you accept my manner of speaking and consider and apply your minds to this alone. If what I am saying is just or not, for this is the very excellence of a judge, while the excellence of an orator is to speak the truth. Now it is only right that I first defend myself, men of Athens, against the first false accusation laid against me, and my first accusers, and then deal with the later ones. And the later accusers, for many of my accusers came to you a long time ago, many years ago, speaking not a word of truth, and I am more afraid of these accusers than of Anytus and his associates, although they are too formidable. They too are formidable. But these are more formidable people who got control of most of you, gentlemen, in childhood, gaining your trust and making accusations against me with no regard for the truth. that there is this Socrates, a wise man, who is preoccupied with the heavenly world and investigated everything beneath the earth, and who makes a wager, a weaker argument stronger. The people, men of Athens, who put this story about are my most formidable accusers, since those who hear this tend to believe that whoever investigates such matters does not believe in the gods either. What is more, these accusers are numerous, and they have been making their accusations for a long time now. Indeed, they were speaking to you at an age where you were most easily convinced. Some of you were just children or youths, making unanswered accusations to which no defense was offered. But what is most unreasonable of all is that it is not even possible to be sure of their names and state them, unless one of them happens to be a certain comic poet. Yet those who convinced you by recourse to malice and slander, or those who convinced others too when they themselves have been convinced, all these people present a formidable challenge. For it is impossible to bring them here, or to cross examine any of them. So I must simply fight with shadows in my own defense and conduct a cross examination to which no one responds. So you really should accept, as I say, there have been two groups of accusers: those who accuse me recently, and the earlier ones whom I am now describing. And please agree that I must defend myself against these first. For these were the first accusers you heard, and you heard them for longer than my recent accusers. So be it. I must make a defense then, men of Athens, and an attempt in such a short time to undo a slander you have picked up over many years. Now this is the outcome I would prefer if it were somehow better for you and for me, and I would like to I would like to succeed in my defense. But I think this is difficult. And the sort of task it is, has not entirely escaped my notice. In any case, this should unfold in whatever way God pleases. Yet the law must be obeyed, so I must present a defense. What, in fact, is the allegation that has given rise to this slander against me? Presumably, the one Meletus relied upon when he brought this charge against me. Let us take up this question from the beginning. Well, when the slanderers slander me, what did they say? Well, I should read out their charge as if they were accusers. Socrates acts unjustly and is excessively curious, investigating things beneath the earth and in the heavens, making the weaker argument stronger and teaching these same things to others. It goes something like that. And indeed, you yourself have seen Socrates in Aristophanes' comedy being carried about the place claiming to walk on air and blabbering a lot of other nonsense about which I have no knowledge, great or small. And I am not speaking out of disrespect for this sort of knowledge. If anyone is wise on such matters, I hope that Meletus' charges are never so numerous as to make me do that. The fact is, men of Athens, I have no involvement with these matters, and I am calling you, majority of you, as witnesses. And I think those of you who have never ever heard me engaging in discourse, as so many of you have, should instruct one another and inform one another. Yes, you should tell one another if any of you, have ever heard me discouraging on such matters to any extent, great or small. And from this, you will realize that the other things that most people say about me are just like these accusations. So I'm going to read this again. What, in fact, is the allegation that has given rise to the slander against me? presumably the one Miletus relied upon when he brought this charge against me. Let us take up this question from the beginning. Well, when the slanderers slandered me, what did they say? Well, I should read out their charge as if they were the accusers. Quote, Socrates acts unjustly and is excessively curious, investigating things beneath the earth and in the heavens, making the weaker arguments stronger, and teaching these same things to others. End quote. It goes something like that. And indeed, you yourselves have seen a Socrates in Aristophanes' comedy being carried about the place, claiming to walk on air and blabbering a lot of other nonsense about which I have no knowledge, great or small. I'm not speaking out of disrespect for the sort of knowledge, if anyone is wise in such matters. I hope that Miletus' charges are never so numerous as to make me do that. But the fact is, men of Athens, I have no involvement with these matters. And I am calling you, the majority of you, as witnesses. And I think those of you who have ever heard me engaging in discourse, as so many of you have, should instruct one another and inform one another. Yes, you should tell one another. If any of you have ever heard me discoursing on such matters to any extent, great or small, and from this you shall realize that the other things that most people say about me are just like these accusations. And the reference here is to Aristophanes' play Clouds. And then we can also see Plato's Symposium. In fact, not one of them is true. And if you have heard from anyone that I undertake to educate people on charge money for doing so, that is not true either, although I would regard this too as a fine accomplishment. If someone were able to educate people, as Gorgias of Leonentine does, Prodicus of Chios too, and Hippias of Elias, for gentlemen, each of these men has the ability to go to any city, to the young people who are allowed consort free of charge with their own fellow citizens as they please, and persuade the young to abandon the company of their own people, consort with them, pay their fees, and feel grateful besides. And I have become aware that there is no wiser man, that there is also another wise man, a Parian, who has arrived here in town, for I happened to visit a man who has spent more money on sophists than everyone put together, Callias, the son of Hipponicus. So I asked him about his two sons. Callias, I said, if your two sons happened to be colts or calves, we would be able to acquire an overseer for them, and pay someone likely to make them noble and good, in their appropriate excellence, and that person would be a horse trainer or a farmer. But now, since they are two human beings, whom do you intend to acquire as their overseer? Who is there who is knowledgeable in excellence of this kind, human and civic excellence? For I presume you have considered this since you have two sons. Is there such a person, or is there not? I asked. There certainly is, he replied. Who is it? I asked. And where is he from, and how much does he charge to teach this? He is Evenus, a Paraean, he replied, and he charges 5 mina. And I would congratulate Evenus if he were truly to possess this skill and teach it for such a modest fee. I, for my part, would have been proud and given myself airs if I had this knowledge. But the fact is, men of Athens, I do not have this knowledge. Now, one of you may perhaps object, quote, but Socrates, what is it that you do? What is the origin of these slanders against you? Yes, surely this rumor and talk would have not arisen unless by your conduct. You stood out from everyone else, unless you were behaving differently from most people. So tell us what it is that we do not make harsh judgments about you. End quote. I think that whoever says this is raising some fair questions, and I shall try to show you what exactly it is that has given rise to this reputation of mine, and the slander too. Listen then, and some of you will probably think that I am joking, but mark my words, I shall tell you the whole truth. For I have acquired this reputation, men of Athens, only because of a particular kind of wisdom. What kind of wisdom is this? The particular wisdom that is perhaps human wisdom. In fact, I probably am wise in that wisdom, and perhaps those men whom I mentioned earlier may be wise with a wisdom that is greater than human wisdom. Otherwise, I do not know what to say, for I myself have no knowledge of it, and anyone who says so is lying, and is out to slander me. And do not raise a clamour against me, men of Athens, even if you think I am speaking boastfully. In fact, the word I shall speak is not my own. Rather, I shall refer to a trustworthy speaker, for I shall provide with the God of Delphi as witness of my own wisdom, if indeed it is wisdom, and of the sort of wisdom it is. Indeed, I presume you knew Chaerephon. He was my friend from my youngest years and a friend of your democracy too, and he joined you in your recent exile and returned along with you. Well, you also know that Chaerephon was like, and how impulsive he was in anything he took on. And in fact, he once went to Delphi and dared to consult the oracle about this. And as I said, please do not raise a clamour, gentlemen. Yes, he asked if anyone was wiser than me. So the Pythia answered that no one was wiser. And his brother, who is here, will be your witness of this, since the man himself is dead. Now consider my reasons for saying all this, for I am going to set out for you the origin of the slander against me. Indeed, when I heard this, I reflected upon it as follows. Quote, what exactly does the god mean? And what on earth is the riddle he poses? For I myself am aware of being wise and nothing great or small. So what precisely does he mean when he says I am the wisest? Of course, he cannot be lying, since that is not lawful for him. End quote. And I was perplexed for a considerable time as to what precisely he meant. Then, with much reluctance, I turned to a process of inquiry that went something like this. I went to one of the people who seemed to be wise, on the assumption that there, if anywhere, I could refute the oracular utterance, and show the oracle. Quote, this person is wiser than me, but you said I am the wisest, end quote. Now, I need not name the man, but it was one of our politicians. I was exclaiming. I was examining. And my experience, men of Athens, was something as follows. As I engaged him in discourse, it seemed to me that although this man was thought to be wise by many other people, and most of all by himself, he was not wise. So I then attempted to show him that although he believed himself to be wise, he was not wise. As a result, I was hated, and by many of those present. I reckoned as I was going that I am wiser than this man, for it is likely that neither of us knows anything noble and good, but he thinks he knows something, and he does not know, while I do not actually know. do not even think that I know. So perhaps in this one minor respect I am wiser than he is, because I do not think that I know what I do not know. I then went to someone else, to one of the people who seemed wiser than that man, and I came to a very same conclusion. And in this case, too, I was hated by him and by many others. Now, after this, I kept on going, aware that I was hated, grieving and fearful. But it seemed necessary, nevertheless, to set the work of the God above all else. In considering the meaning of the oracle, I had to go to all those who seemed to know something. And by the dog, men of Athens, for I must speak the truth to you, my experience was something like this. When it came to understanding, those with the most exalted reputation seemed to me, as I searched at the god's behest, well nigh worse off, while other men of low repute were better off. So I must recount my wanderings to you, and the labours I undertook, only to find the oracle irrefutable. For after the politicians, I went to the poets, the tragedians, the Mithrabs, and the rest, the Mithrabists, and the rest, expecting in this case to show myself up blatantly as being more ignorant than they. So, selecting poems of theirs that, in my opinion, they had crafted most intricately, and I would question them as to what they meant, in order to learn something from them in the process. Now, gentlemen, I am ashamed to recount the truth to you, but it must be spoken nevertheless. For in a sense, almost anyone who was present might have spoken better than the poets about the poems they themselves had composed. So, in the case of the poets, too, I quickly realized that it is not by wisdom that they compose their works, but by nature and by being inspired. Just like the prophets and deliverers of our oracles. For these people also say a great deal, and it is beautiful too, but they know nothing about what they are saying. It was evident to me that the poets were in a similar predicament, and I became aware at the same time that because of their poetry, they also thought themselves the wisest of men in general, when they were not to. So I left their company too, thinking I was better than they are, in the same way that I was better off than the politicians. Then, finally, I came to the craftsmen, for I myself was aware that I really had no knowledge, and yet I knew I would find that their knowledge was extensive and beautiful. Well, I was not deceived in this. They did not know things I did not know, and in this respect they were wiser than me. But men of Athens, it seemed to me, the preeminent craftsmen also had the same failing as the poets, because they exercised their skill so beautiful. They each seemed themselves extremely wise in their other matters too, matters of great importance, and in this error of theirs obscured that wisdom. So I asked myself on behalf of the oracle whether I should accept my present condition, neither wise in any of their wisdom nor foolish in their folly, or possess their wisdom and their folly. So I responded to myself, the oracle, that it was better for me to remain as I was. From this process of investigation, men of Athens, I have incurred a great deal of hatred of the most troublesome and grievous kind, from which many slanders have arisen, and I am called wise. For those who are present always assume I am wise in those matters in which I refute someone else. But in fact, gentlemen, it is more likely that the God is actually wise, and through this oracle he is saying this: that human wisdom is of little or indeed of no value. And he appears to be referring to me, Socrates. And what is more, he is using my name as an example, as if he were to say, he among you, O humans, is wisest who recognizes, like Socrates, that he is in truth worth nothing when it comes to wisdom. So, to this very day, I go about conducting these investigations, seeking out at the gods' behest anyone, either citizen or stranger, whom I think to be wise. And once he seems not so to me, to assist the god, I show that he is not wise. And because of this occupation, I have no time for any involvement in civic affairs worth mentioning, or for any private concerns either. But I am in utter poverty because of my servitude to the god. As well as this, the young people follow me about of their own accord, those with the most free time who belong to the wealthiest families. They enjoy hearing people being examined, and they often imitate me themselves when in turn they attempt to examine others. And then and they then find, I am sure, a whole host of people who think they know something when they know little or nothing. So as a result, those whom they cross-examine get angry with me rather than themselves, and they say that Socrates is a pestilence who corrupts the young. And whenever anyone asks them what I do and what I teach, they have nothing to say. They have no idea. And so, that they do not seem to be at a loss, they repeat the convenient charges made against all philosophers, that they investigate the heavens above and the earth beneath, and that they do not believe in the gods, and that they make the weaker arguments stronger. But in my view, they are reluctant to speak the truth and admit that they are being exposed, pretending to know when they know nothing. Now, because, as I see it, these influential people are ambitious, forceful, and numerous, and because they speak about me assertively and persuasively, they have assailed your ears over many, many years with their comprehensive slander. On this basis, Meletus has proceeded against me, and Tias too, and Lycon, Meletus being angry of the poet's behalf, and Tias on behalf of the craftsmen and politicians, Lycon on behalf of the rhetoricians. And so, as I said at the outset, I would be surprised if I were able, in the short time available, to rid you of this slander when it has become so persuasive. There you have the truth, men of Athens. I have concealed nothing, significant or insignificant, and I am speaking without any restraint. Yet I know quite well that these are the very reasons I am hated, which proves that I am speaking the truth. This is the slander against me, and these are the causes. And if you investigate these matters, either now or in the future, you shall find that it is so. Now, this defense I offer you against the accusation made by my first accusers should be sufficient. I shall attempt to follow this with a defense against Meletus, that good man and friend of the city, so he proclaims, and the latter accusers too. Well then, we should take their affidavit in turn, as if they were a different set of accusers. It goes somewhat as follows. It says that Socrates acts unjustly by corrupting the young and believing. Not in the gods the city believes in, but in their novel divine forces. That is the sort of charge it is, and we should scrutinize every detail of this charge. Well then, the charge states that I am acting unjustly by corrupting the young. And yet I state, men of Athens, that Meletus is acting unjustly, because he is making a joke of a serious matter. and blithely bringing people to trial, pretending to be serious and concerned about matters that he has never cared about at all. But I shall attempt to demonstrate to you that this is the case. Come, Meletus, tell me, do you not attach great importance to the younger generation being the best condition possible? I do. Come on then, tell these people. Who is it who makes them better? Yes, you obviously know who it is, since you care. For you claim to have discovered their corrupter, me, and you are bringing me before these people and pressing charges. So come on, tell me who makes young people better. Tell me, or tell them, who this is. Do you see, Meletus, that you are silent and have nothing to say? But do you not think this is shameful and enough to prove what I am saying? You do not care. But speak, good man, who makes them for better? The laws. But best of men, I did not ask you that. No, I asked the person who knows this in the first place, who knows the laws. These people, Socrates, the jurors. What are you saying, Meletus? Are the jurors here able to educate young and make them better? Very much so. All the jurors, or just some of them? All of them. By Hera, that is good news. You are saying that there is a whole host of people who benefit the young. And what about those who are listening in? Do they make them better or not? These people too. What about those who sit on the council? Those who sit on the council too. Well, Meletus, perhaps those in the assemblymen corrupt the young, or do they all make them better too? They do too. So it seems that all the Athenians make the noble and good except me. I alone corrupt them. Is that what you're saying? This is what I'm saying most emphatically. Then you have laid great misfortune at my door. Now answer this question for me. Do you think this is also the case with horses, that everyone makes them better, while there is one person who corrupts them? Or is it completely the other way around? There is one person, or very few, the horse trainers, who can make them better, while most people corrupt the horses if they deal with them or use them. Is this the case? Isn't this the case? Meletus, both with horses and all animals? It is, of course, entirely so, whether yourself and Antius confirm it or deny it. Indeed, it would be a great blessing to the young people if only one person corrupted them, while everyone else benefited them. But in fact, Meletus, you are demonstrating quite adequately that you have not given a moment's thought to the young people, and you are blatantly exposing your own uncaring attitude. You do not care about the issues on which you are prosecuting me. And by Zeus, Meletus, tell us this besides. Is it better to dwell among good citizens or wicked ones? Answer, my man, for I have not asked you a difficult question. Do not the wicked do some harm to those who are always closest to them, while the good do some good? Yes, certainly. Now, is there anyone who prefers to be harmed by his associates rather than benefited? Answer, my good man. In fact, the law demands that you answer. Is there anyone who wishes to be ashamed? No, of course not. Come then. Are you prosecuting me here for corrupting the young and making them more wicked intentionally or unintentionally? I say intentionally. What is this, Meletus? Are you at your age so much wiser than I am at my age that you have recognized that the bad people always do some harm to those closest, to themselves, and the good do some good, while I'm in such depths of ignorance that I do not even realize that if I make any of my fellow wicked, I run the risk of being harmed by him. And so, according to you, I perform such an evil deed as this intentionally. No, Meletus, you do not convince me any of this, and I do not think anyone is convinced either. Well then, either I do not corrupt them, or if I corrupt them, I do so unintentionally. And so in either case, you are speaking falsely. But if I corrupt them unintentionally, you should not, by law, bring me to court over a mistake like this. Instead, you should instruct me and rebuke me in private, for it is obvious that if I am given instruction, I shall stop whatever I am doing unintentionally. Yet, although you have avoided my company and been reluctant to instruct me, you nevertheless bring me here to court, where by law you should bring those who are in need of punishment rather than instruction. In any case, men of Athens, it is obvious at this stage, as I said, that Meletus has never shown any great concern for these matters, not in the least. Nevertheless, Meletus, tell us, in what way do I corrupt the young according to you? Or is it quite obvious from the charge you have brought against me that I do so by teaching them not to believe in the gods the city believes, but in other novel divine forces? Don't you say that I corrupt them by teaching them this? Yes, certainly, that is what I am saying, emphatically. Well, Meletus, by those very gods we are now talking about, speak more clearly, both to myself and to these gentlemen here, for I cannot understand you. You are saying that I teach them to believe in some gods, and that I myself actually believe in gods, and am not a total atheist, and unjust in that sense. Is your charge against me that the gods I believe in are not the gods of the city, but different? Or are you claiming that I myself do not believe in gods at all, and I teach these doctrines to others? That is what I am saying, that you do not believe in gods at all. You are surprised, Meletus. What makes you say this? Do I not actually believe that the sun and the moon are gods, as other men do? No, by Zeus, gentlemen of the jury, since he declares that the sun is stone and the moon is earth. Dear Meletus, do you think you're accusing Anaxagoras? And do you have such a contempt for these men, and think them so unlettered as not to know that the books of Anaxagoras and Clazomene are full of these doctrines? And do the young really learn these doctrines from me, when they can sometimes buy them in the market for a drachma at most, and laugh at Socrates if he pretends they are his own, especially when they are so strange? But by Zeus, is this really what you think? Do I believe that there isn't any good God? By Zeus, you do not at all. You have no credibility, Meletus. And I do not think that even you believe this yourself. Indeed, in my opinion, men of Athens, this man is extremely arrogant and unrestrained, and has simply brought this charge in a spirit of arrogance, unrestraint, and impetuosity. Yes, he is like someone posing a riddle as a test. So, will Socrates, the wise, recognize that I am making a joke and contradicting myself, or will I deceive him and everyone else who hears me? In fact, the man appears to me to contradict himself in the charge, as if he were saying, Socrates is acting unjustly by not believing in gods, but believing in gods. But this is a joke. Join with me then, gentlemen, and consider in detail how, in my view, he is saying this. You should answer our questions, Meletus, while you gentlemen should recall the favor I asked of you at the beginning. Do not cause a commotion if I can conduct the discussion in my accustomed manner. Is there anyone, Meletus, who believes that there are human affairs, but does not believe there are human beings? Let him answer, and gentlemen, do not make one commotion after another. Is there anyone who does not believe in horses, yet believes in equestrian affairs, or who does not believe there are flute players, but does believe in matters concerned with flute playing? Best of men, there is not. Since you do not wish to respond, I am telling you, everyone else here, but you must at least answer my next question. Is there anyone who believes that there are divine forces, but does not believe in divinity? There is not. How good of you to answer reluctantly under compulsion from these men. Now, till next time.